It was past midnight at Hillcrest Royale Hotel. The marble floors glistened under soft golden lights. Guests slept behind closed doors, wealthy, dreaming, carefree. But not everyone in the building belonged to that world. Down the east hallway, Naomi Kamsiokori knelt beside her cleaning cart. Her uniform looked neat, but her heart felt torn apart. Her phone trembled in one hand as she whispered to her mother, "Mama, please, don't sell Papa's necklace. It's all we have left of him." Her voice cracked like glass. On the other end, Mama Bisi's tone carried exhaustion, years of struggle weighing each word. "Kamsi, the landlord said tomorrow morning. We have no money for rent. What choice do we have, my daughter?" Naomi shut her eyes tight, holding back her sobs. She worked long hours for little pay. She cleaned up the world for people who never noticed her. Still, she whispered, "Give me one more day. I'll find a way, I promise." She didn't know someone was listening. At the far end of the corridor, a tall man in a charcoal suit stood still. Darian Kolenwoko, billionaire CEO of Aurum Real Estate. His world was polished, powerful, and controlled. He had stepped out after a tense business call, but life had interrupted him with something unexpected. A girl crying quietly, yet refusing to break. He watched her turn away from the phone, wipe her tears, inhale shakily, then rise to her feet and continue working. No tantrum, no collapse, just courage in motion. Most people, when life knocked them down, stayed down. But this young woman, she wiped her eyes and kept going. Darian felt something shift inside him, something he hadn't felt in years, recognition. Not of her, but of pain carried with dignity. For a long moment, he simply watched her invisible strength shining through silence. His chest tightened with a heaviness he couldn't name. Grief, empathy, hope, whatever it was, it made him stay. Naomi finished cleaning a window, forcing a small, practiced smile, the smile of someone life never gave permission to fall apart. She pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway, unaware that destiny was following 2 steps behind. Darian whispered to himself, "Who carries you when you carry everyone?" He didn't know her name yet. But he knew one thing. This wouldn't be the last time he saw her. Because hope once noticed is impossible to ignore. Morning arrived too soon for Naomi. Her eyes were heavy from tears. She refused to cry again. She moved through the hallway with that same quiet determination, the kind that kept the world from crumbling beneath her feet. As she turned the corner toward room 501, the door opened. And there he stood, Darian Cole and Woko, billionaire. Power in human form. His presence filled the hallway effortlessly. Naomi froze. She instinctively bowed her head. Staff learned early that wealthy guests preferred not to look into the eyes of those who cleaned after them. "Excuse me," he began, his voice calm, almost gentle. "You're the young lady from last night." Naomi's heart raced. She panicked. He heard me. Oh, God, I disturbed him. "I'm sorry, sir," she stammered. "It won't happen again." He shook his head softly. "You didn't disturb me." Her eyes lifted, confused. Most guests complained over simple things. No guest had ever softened a rebuke into comfort. Darian stepped closer. He studied her face the way people study rare paintings, carefully, reverently. "I overheard your conversation," he admitted. "You were upset, but you kept working anyway." Naomi's breath caught in embarrassment. "Sir, I was only trying to, survive?" He finished for her. That one word unraveled the walls she worked so hard to hold. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek, matte black card. He extended it toward her, palm steady. "Aye, sure. If you're willing," he said, "I'd like to offer you something better." Naomi stared at the card, his name embossed in silver, his private estate address on the back. A billionaire's home. Why me?" she whispered. Darian gave the smallest smile, the kind born from respect, not pity. "Because you didn't quit," he said. "You were breaking, but you kept going. That means something." For the first time in a very long while, someone saw her strength instead of her struggle. Her fingers shook as she accepted the card. Darian stepped away, but his words lingered like light in a dark room. Come tonight, 7 p.m. I hope you'll say yes. Naomi watched him walk toward the elevator, shoulders straight, stride confident, a man used to changing lives with decisions. She looked down at the card pressed to her chest. A life she barely dared to dream of just opened its gate. And fear whispered one question. Is this the beginning or a mistake waiting to happen? The evening air in Licora City carried a quiet chill as Naomi stood before the towering iron gate of the Cole and Woko private estate. Elegant vines curled around the metal bars as if nature itself guarded the world behind them. Her heart raced. She wore the neatest clothes she owned, a simple cream blouse and black jeans, shoes worn but clean. Her father's necklace rested against her chest as if reminding her she belonged to someone's love once and maybe could again. She pressed the small silver button. A soft beat. Then a warm voice crackled through the speaker. Good evening, Miss Naomi. Please come in. Mr. Cole Nwoko is expecting you. Expecting her. A hotel maid from the East Wing hallway. The gate parted slowly like destiny exhaling. As she walked up the stone pathway lined with glowing garden lights, every insecurity screamed, turn back. You don't belong here. But her mother's voice echoed stronger. When God opens a door, my daughter, enter it with your head high. The mansion door opened before she could knock. A woman in her early 50s, graceful, warm-eyed, stepped forward with a smile that felt like home. Welcome, dear. I'm Mrs. Clara Adebayo, she said. I manage the household. Come inside. Let's get you comfortable. No judgment. No cold stare at her clothes. Just kindness. Naomi followed her through a living room filled with soft light and the gentle scent of lavender. Not luxury that screamed superiority, but beauty that whispered peace. Clara guided her into a cozy sitting room. Mr. Cole Nwoko will be with you shortly, she assured. Naomi sat on the edge of the chair, hands clasped, praying she didn't embarrass herself. Her body wanted to tremble, but she held still. Then the door opened. Darian entered, not in a sharp business suit, but in a simple navy sweater. Softer, human. Thank you for coming, he said, voice low and sincere. Naomi stood quickly. I almost didn't, she admitted. I wasn't sure if I should. Darian poured tea into a cup and gently slid it before her, as if she were a guest, not a servant. I'm glad you did. He took a seat across from her level, not above. I want to offer you a job, he began. Naomi blinked. What kind of job? You'll live here, he explained, as a personal house assistant. Help with documents, household organization. Assist Clara. It's honest work, and you will be paid every week enough to care for your family. Her lips parted in disbelief. But why do this for me? He leaned forward, eyes steady. Because survival is not weakness. And I won't let your strength go unnoticed. Her heart trembled. What happens when you no longer need me? She whispered. Darian replied gently. Then you leave with your dignity, or you stay with your future. It depends on life, not on pity. Naomi stared at the tea she held. Warm, real, like this moment. Finally, she nodded. I accept. Clara's smile glowed with pride. Darian gave a relieved, grateful nod. Naomi didn't just say yes to a job. She stepped into a chapter where dreams didn't feel sinful. And for the first time in years, tomorrow didn't scare her. Mrs. Clara led Naomi down a softly lit hallway. The floors were polished oak, the walls lined with framed photographs, not of wealth, but of memories, smiles frozen in time, birthday candles, messy paint on hands, a family that once felt complete. Naomi felt something stir inside her, a longing she had learned to silence. Clara stopped at a door near the end of the hall and opened it gently. This will be your room, dear. Naomi stepped in and stopped breathing. The room wasn't extravagant. It was beautiful in a way she had never known beauty. A soft cream comforter atop a neatly made bed, a small wooden desk beside a window, a fresh white flower in a vase, peace woven into every corner.
The window opened to an intimate garden lit by tiny lights dancing among palm trees. It looked like a place where hearts learned how to hope again. Naomi's voice broke as she whispered, "I've never had a room this quiet before." Clara smiled warm enough to heal cracks. "My dear, quiet is not a luxury. It's a necessity for those who battle life every day." Naomi tried to blink back tears, but one slipped free, not from sorrow, but relief. Clara squeezed her shoulder. "You've worked your whole life, Naomi. Let the world give you a little room to breathe." Naomi traced her fingertips along the desk, half expecting everything to disappear like a dream she had no right to touch. She placed the only belongings she carried into the dresser, half of one drawer still empty. That emptiness didn't feel mocking. It felt like space for a future. Alone at last, she sat on the bed and pressed her palm over her heart where the necklace lay. She whispered her father's favorite words. "Come say God is with me." Yes, maybe he was. She laid back, eyes on the ceiling, tears drying into a shy smile. For the first time in her life, Naomi wasn't afraid of tomorrow. She actually wanted to see what it might bring. On the other side of the hallway, Darian paused, hand resting on the wall, listening to the faint sound of her hopeful breath. He didn't say a word, but a vow formed silently in his chest. She will never cry alone in a hallway again. Two souls under one roof now, one learning to believe she deserves happiness, the other learning to believe happiness still exists, and both unaware that love had already quietly opened its door. Morning sunlight poured gently through Naomi's curtains. For a moment, she simply laid there still, breathing in a peace she had never been given permission to feel. Today, she reminded herself, she was safe. The hallway already hummed with the soft rhythm of a home waking. Naomi followed the scent of fresh coffee to the kitchen where Clara moved gracefully between pans. "Good morning, Naomi," she greeted, eyes bright with approval. Naomi smiled, a real one this time, and helped set the dining table. Every task felt meaningful, not forced. No one barked orders. No one belittled her existence. After breakfast, Clara handed her a small checklist. "Light duties today. We take things slowly here. You're allowed to breathe." Naomi nodded, gratitude warming her chest. By afternoon, she found herself in a study room filled with boxes, old files, and dusty journals. Each paper whispered history, family, love and loss. She worked carefully, respecting stories that weren't hers. She didn't hear Darian enter. "You're very focused," he said softly. Naomi startled slightly, then quickly lowered her gaze. "I just want to do well, sir." "You already are," he replied, kneeling beside her. He held an old envelope with fading ink. "My father wrote these when the company was failing. He kept even the fears he never spoke." Naomi listened with respectful silence. She knew what it meant to hold on to what hurts, because letting go could break you. As they sorted through memories and dust, a question escaped her. "Were you always the one carrying everyone?" Darian froze for a heartbeat. Her quiet intuition struck deeper than she realized. He didn't answer. Instead, he stood and gestured toward the hallway. "There is a room I haven't allowed anyone to enter," he said, "not even Clara." Curiosity flickered, but Naomi remained still, cautious. He walked ahead, stopping at a white door, elegant, untouched, perfectly still. His shoulders stiffened, his breath unsteady for the first time. "This was Isabella's music room," he finally whispered. Naomi's gaze softened. She didn't know the name, but the pain wrapped around it was clear. "She played piano every sunrise," Darian continued. "Said the world made sense in melodies." He placed his hand on the doorframe, fingers trembling. "She died 4 years ago. A plane crash." The air fell silent, heavy. Naomi stepped closer. Not too close, but just enough so he wouldn't feel alone in that moment. "Some rooms hold joy," she whispered. "Some hold goodbyes we never wanted. You don't have to open it alone." Darian's eyes shifted to her, surprised by her gentle bravery. "Sometimes the strongest comfort is the kind spoken in whispers." He nodded once, not ready to open the door, but no longer locked inside it. Naomi didn't break his grief. She simply stood beside it. And that was enough. 2 pasts. 1 silent understanding. A connection deeper than either expected, formed in the quiet between words. And somewhere, deep inside that house, a door of pain had felt a knock of healing for the first time. Days passed, and Naomi slowly learned the rhythm of the Cole and Woko household, a rhythm not of demands, but of gentleness. She watered plants that had known more care than she ever did, sorted letters written by people whose lives never balanced on hunger or rent. And yet, her heart felt lighter than it had in years, but there was something still missing, a part of her that life had forced into silence. Her sewing. Back home, whenever fear tightened her chest, she would sew until her fingers steadied. Creating beauty from broken fabrics made her believe she wasn't broken, too. One crisp morning, as Naomi finished organizing the study, Clara stepped in with a small brown parcel. "This arrived for you," she said with a knowing smile. "For me?" Naomi blinked. She never received packages. Hope didn't usually come in boxes. With cautious hands, she unwrapped it. Her breath caught. Inside were rolls of soft fabric in rich colors, a brand new pair of sewing scissors, a quality sewing kit arranged perfectly, spools of fine thread. Naomi's lips parted. I didn't order this?" Clara simply nodded toward the hallway. Naomi turned and found Darian standing there. His voice was calm, but the emotion behind it was warm and certain. "You once said sewing helped you breathe," he told her. "No one who breathes should ever stop." The words pierced deeper than he could see. "Sir, I don't want to become someone who waits for help," she whispered, fighting old shame. Darian shook his head gently. "This isn't help, Naomi." His eyes held hers with rare softness. "This is belief." Her throat tightened. Tears she didn't want him to see gathered anyway, because for so long the world only saw what she lacked. For the first time, someone saw what she could become. Hope fluttered inside her like a newly freed bird. Later that afternoon, while she worked in the study, an idea sparked, wild, daring, impossible. She found Clara in the kitchen. "What if," Naomi began cautiously, "we used the empty room in the East Wing, a sewing workshop for women like me, girls who need skills and confidence, a place to feel seen?" Clara's eyes widened, not in disbelief, but pride. "Oh, my dear," she breathed, "that is a beautiful idea." Naomi glanced toward the doorway, where Darian stood listening unseen, admiration softening his gaze. She couldn't see it, but he was looking at her like she had just brought light into a room he thought would remain dark forever. In that moment, a new chapter began. Not just for Naomi, but for every woman who had ever been told she wasn't enough. Because one gift can awaken a dream, and one dream can change the world. The east wing of the Colnwoko estate had been silent for years. Dust rested on untouched shelves, and the air smelled like forgotten memories. But Naomi saw something different. Promise. Within days, she transformed that space into a cozy sewing workshop. Tables borrowed from storage, sewing machines donated by neighbors, fabric scraps arranged neatly, sunlight warming the room through tall windows. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. On opening day, only 2 women arrived, hesitant, nervous, carrying the same fears Naomi once carried. By the second week, there were 10. Single mothers, housekeepers, unemployed youths, women who felt invisible, until Naomi smiled at them and said, "You are capable of making something beautiful." Laughter slowly replaced silence. Hope replaced shame. Skill replaced fear. Every stitch sewn was a step toward self-worth. Clara often watched from the doorway, her heart swelling with pride. But someone else watched too. Darian. He stood quietly behind the doorframe, arms folded, eyes softening as he watched Naomi lean over a young mother's shoulder. guiding her hands with gentle patience. She wasn't simply teaching sewing, she was restoring dignity. Naomi glowed not from luxury, but from purpose, and Darian felt something shift inside him again. It wasn't admiration anymore. It was something deeper, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel since Isabella. One afternoon, Naomi wiped sweat from her forehead after helping a shy girl master her first stitch. She turned and caught Darian's gaze. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. She looked away quickly, cheeks warming. "I hope I haven't overstepped," she murmured. "Overstepped?" Darian repeated, stepping closer. "You've brought more life into this house than I have in years." Their eyes locked. A universe of unspoken things between them. Naomi looked down, voice trembling with sincerity. "I just wanted to give others what you gave me. A chance to breathe." Darian's breath caught in his chest, because, without realizing it, she was healing him too. As evening settled, Naomi walked through the garden, watering the flowers like she had always belonged there. Darian watched from the balcony, a question forming in his heart. What if hope isn't something you give, but something you find in another person? The sewing machines went quiet, but inside that house, dreams had begun to sing. The sewing workshop bloomed faster than Naomi ever imagined. Stories spread across Lacora City. A young woman in Hillcrest Estate is teaching forgotten hands to create new futures. Soon, the once silent East Wing buzzed with laughter, sewing machines, confidence stitching itself back together. Every woman who walked in walked out taller. One bright afternoon, Clara entered holding a cream-colored envelope sealed with a golden crest. "Naomi, this is for you." Naomi wiped her hands nervously and opened it. Inside, an invitation. "You have been nominated for the Lacora Women Empowerment Award, honoring those who uplift society through skill and compassion." Naomi's heart stumbled. "Me?" she breathed. "I didn't do anything special." Clara placed both hands on her shoulders. "You did what this world forgets. You lifted others as you climbed." Before Naomi could gather herself, Darian stepped into the room. He had heard. He had seen the disbelief in her eyes. He understood it too well. "You earned this," he said simply. Naomi shook her head, fear twisting inside her. "What if they ask who I am?" she whispered. "What if they remember the worst part of my past?" Darian stepped closer, close enough for truth to reach her. "You are not your past," he said. "You are who you choose to become." His voice carried a certainty she wanted desperately to believe. The night of the ceremony arrived. Naomi wore a navy dress. She stitched with her own hands, elegant in its simplicity, beautiful in its honesty. Clara brushed her cheek proudly. "You look like the future, my dear." At the venue, Naomi hesitated at the entrance, breath shallow, palms trembling. Wealthy guests glided around her in diamonds and silk. She stood still, afraid she didn't belong. Then he appeared, Darian, sharp in a tailored black suit, power in every step but softness in his gaze. He didn't touch her. He didn't speak. He just held her eyes with a look that said, "Walk in. I'm right here." Naomi inhaled deeply. She stepped inside. Cameras flashed. Music swelled. Applause echoed. She looked up at Darian again. He nodded the smallest encouragement, and her fear melted into pride. She was not the maid crying in a hallway anymore. She was a woman being celebrated, but in the shadows of that grand hall, someone else was watching. Someone who remembered her past. Someone eager to destroy the peace she fought for. Because when light rises, darkness tries to follow. And Naomi had no idea that the spotlight was about to turn into a storm. The hall buzzed with excitement as nominees were introduced one by one. Naomi sat quietly among the crowd, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Every clap felt like a miracle, the kind of moment she used to dream about while scrubbing floors. A presenter smiled brightly as her name was announced. Naomi Kamsi-Okori, founder of Aurum Women's Creativity Hub. Applause, cameras, admiring eyes. Naomi rose slowly, heart fluttering like a caged bird finally tasting freedom. But just as she stepped toward the stage, the screen behind her changed.
A photograph flashed into full view. Naomi, hair messy, terrified, standing outside a police station. A bold headline stamped across the image. Maid arrested for theft 2 years ago. The hall fell into chilling silence. Gasps, whispers, eyes narrowing with judgment sharper than knives. Naomi froze, breath stolen mid-step. Her world, the one she was finally building, shattered. No, she whispered, voice trembling. That case was dismissed. I didn't do it. But her defense sounded like a child pleading against a storm.
Shame wrapped around her neck like a tightening rope. Her knees wobbled. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Through the blur of humiliation, she saw a woman smirking in the crowd, a reporter hungry for scandal, not truth. Run! Her instincts screamed. She turned, ready to flee the hall, ready to return to the shadows life kept pushing her into. But before she could take a second step, a figure rose. Calm, tall, unshaken. Darian Nwoko. He didn't hesitate. Didn't glance for approval. He walked straight to the stage and took the microphone from the stunned presenter's hands. His voice echoed through the room, deep, steady, unbreakable. Before you judge her based on a headline, listen to the truth. The hall went silent again, but this time with fear of what power might reveal. Darian slowly turned toward the screen. That picture shows a young woman accused of a crime she never committed, he said. But it does not show who she is. His gaze lowered to Naomi, a softness only she could see. It doesn't show the girl who worked 3 jobs to feed her family. It doesn't show the woman who turned her pain into purpose, lifting others to their feet. It doesn't show her strength, her courage, her heart. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to, because conviction doesn't shout, it speaks. If anyone still believes that accusation defines her worth, he concluded with quiet authority, and you have not met Naomi. Silence, then applause. Slow at first, then spreading like a tidal wave. Naomi stood trembling, not with shame now, but with dignity. She blinked back tears, stunned that someone had chosen to stand between her and the world. As Darian reached out his hand, he didn't speak. He didn't have to. His eyes said everything. You are not alone. Not anymore. Naomi placed her hand in his, and together they stepped away from the humiliation toward her future. The applause still echoed inside the hall as the doors closed behind them. Outside, the night air wrapped around Naomi like a soft blanket, cool, calming, real. But her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She had walked into that hall wearing confidence. She stitched herself, and for a terrifying moment, the world tried to tear her seams apart. Darian stood beside her in silence, not crowding, not pushing, just being there, a quiet shield. Naomi held her arms tightly across her chest. I'm so tired, she whispered, her voice breaking. Tired of having to prove I'm not what people think. Darian turned to face her fully. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, he said. You showed them who you are, and they saw it. Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of someone finally allowed to stop running. She looked at him, truly looked at the man who saw her in a hallway where she thought she was invisible. Why did you defend me? She asked softly. You didn't have to, but you did. He inhaled deeply, as if he had been holding that truth in for too long. Because I know what it feels like, he said, to live with a past that tries to follow you everywhere. His gaze dipped briefly, the pain he usually kept guarded shining through. When Isabella died, people blamed me, he confessed, for not being there, for loving her too much or not enough. Everyone had a reason to judge. No one cared about the truth. Naomi's heart ached. Grief recognizes grief. She stepped closer, her voice gentle. You loved her, she said, and love is never a crime. His eyes locked onto hers, gratitude and something warmer flickering there. And neither is survival, he replied. You fought your way here. That is not something to hide. A soft breeze brushed past them, carrying the scent of jasmine. Naomi exhaled a long, healing breath. For the first time in her life, the past wasn't chasing her. Instead, the future was calling. Darian reached into his pocket and handed her something small. A gold pin shaped like a tiny sewing needle and thread, elegant and shining under the moonlight. I had this made, he said, for the leader of Aurum Women's Creativity Hub. Naomi's lips parted, speechless. Tomorrow, he continued, the press will talk about the woman who rose above shame, not the girl in the mug shot. Her fingers clutched the pin, a symbol of the life she was building stitch by stitch. She looked up at Darian, voice barely a breath. Thank you. He shook his head gently, eyes soft, almost tender. No, Naomi, he whispered. Thank you for reminding me that broken things can still create beauty. Their hearts stood closer than their bodies. A quiet moment. The kind that feels like the beginning of something extraordinary. Tonight, the shadows tried to claim her, but Naomi walked away wearing truth as her armor. She wasn't the girl crying in a hallway anymore. She was the woman who walked into the light and didn't bow her head. The city was still asleep when Naomi opened her eyes the next morning. Sunlight filtered softly through her curtains, painting the room in gentle gold. For a moment, she simply lay there, listening to the quiet. A year ago, silence meant worry, long nights, counting overdue bills. Today, silence meant peace. She sat up slowly, fingertips brushing the gold sewing needle pin Darian gifted her. She smiled a soft, grateful smile, the kind that blooms when someone finally believes they deserve joy. She whispered her father's words to the still morning air. Come see, God is with me. Today, she felt those words like truth. Downstairs, Clara was already preparing breakfast. She looked up as Naomi entered the kitchen, her smile warm and motherly. Good morning, our award winner, Clara teased lightly. Naomi blushed, shaking her head. I'm no winner yet. Oh, my dear, Clara said, squeezing her hand. You already won by refusing to disappear. Those words wrapped around Naomi's heart like a protective embrace. Later, Naomi walked into the sewing workshop. The women were waiting, bright eyes, excited chatter. When they saw her, they clapped spontaneously, the applause louder and warmer than anything in the event hall. One woman stepped forward, tears shining. You believed in us when no one else would, she said. You gave us pride again. That's a victory bigger than any award. Naomi's throat tightened. She realized this wasn't about her anymore. No, it was about every woman she refused to leave behind. She had become the hope she once prayed for. Meanwhile, in his study upstairs, Darian stood by the window, coffee in hand, watching Naomi through the glass. She was laughing with the women, radiant, alive. For the first time in years, the ache in his chest didn't feel like grief, but possibility. Clara entered quietly behind him. You care for her deeply, she observed softly. Darian didn't deny it. He didn't look away either. I thought I had sealed off my heart forever, he confessed. But she opened a door I didn't realize was locked. Clara nodded knowingly. Some people don't walk into our lives, she said. They arrive when our souls are finally ready. Darian finally turned from the window, decision forming in his mind. He would no longer let fear be the author of his story. That evening, Naomi stepped into the garden, a place that had become her sanctuary. The jasmine flowers swayed, catching the last silver light of sunset. She was lost in thought when she heard footsteps. Darian stood there, not the billionaire CEO, nor the grieving fiancé, just a man trying to understand the miracle before him. He took a slow breath and said quietly, Naomi, I want you to stay here. Not just as a worker, not just as a leader, but as someone who is part of this home. Her heart raced a soft tremor of hope. And if life allows it, he continued, carefully choosing each word, I would like to discover what tomorrow looks like, with you in it. Silence fell, not empty, but full. Naomi stepped closer. Her voice shook, but her courage didn't. Oh, I've spent so long running from my past, but with you, I finally want to run towards something. Their eyes held two stories, finding the same ending. Under the evening sky, in a garden that once knew only sorrow. Two broken hearts dared to imagine something whole. Not a fairy tale, not perfection, but a beginning. The girl who once cried in a hallway now stood on the edge of a life. She chose. Her past no longer chained her. Her dignity now crowned her. Her future waited with open arms. And for the first time ever, Naomi Kamsi Okori walked forward, not surviving, but living.